G'day guys, it's Jake here. Today I'm going to be running you through Exchange administration on Office 365. So I did have this question asked on my other video for the introduction to Microsoft 365 administration. So I'm going to go more in depth on the Exchange side of the administration, so the email and other stuff around emailing and folders and sharing and stuff like that. So basically we've got this here. So this is our Microsoft 365 administration portal. If you then go down on the left, you should have a show more button or show less possibly. If you go show all, you can then get into the Exchange administration portal. So when you click in there, it will load up. And basically this is where we find all things Exchange. There is a new admin center, which we will go through trying out a bit later. It doesn't have a lot of the stuff like it has in the old administration center because it's still new. But maybe by the time you're watching it, everything's in the new administration center. I don't know, we'll see. Well, you'll see, I probably won't. Anyway, so what we've got here on the left is basically these same headings on the left, and if we go into them, you will find these roles. So if we go into permissions, you'll then find the same three headings: admin roles, user roles, Outlook web policies. And recipients, we've got the same sort of stuff here. So basically to get around, you just click on what you want. You can go in and do whatever you need to do. The first thing we're going to go into is our user mailbox configurations. So if we go into the Mailboxes tab, you can see all of your users in here, all of your people. You can see their display names, the mailbox type, and also their current email address. So if we double click on one, it will show more settings. And in here, you can see the mailbox usage, their last login time. You can fill in their contact information if you wish, and you can see more contact. You can give them a job title and their manager. You can also add in additional email addresses. So in here, what happens is, say you wanted marketing@emails to be received. We can go marketing and hit OK. And you can see now if an email set is sent to marketing, it will go there. The only problem with this is marketing is not a valid email. So what you'd want to do is actually get the whole domain name as well and put it in and hit OK. So what will happen now is if somebody sends an email to marketing, it will go to Adele V. So Adele V will receive any emails that get sent to marketing. When you add them this way, it's a one-to-one adding. If you wanted emails that are sent to marketing to be distributed amongst multiple people, you would need to use a distribution group, which we'll get to ahead. But yeah, basically there is where you set it. You can see here that that's lowercase and not bold. So let's just add in a second one of... So you can see now we've got office and marketing going there, but this one's capital. So what that means that the capitalized one is the actual reply to address. So you can change the reply to address. So that means what you send as. So basically this user can send as Adele V, but it can receive as Adele V, marketing and office. If you wanted to change the send email address, you can click there, tick make this my reply email address, and you can see there it's gone bold. So basically now the username won't be changed. So still when Adele goes to log in, she will log in as Adele V at M365 blah blah blah. But when she sends an email, it will send as marketing, which I don't want to keep that change. So I'm just going to change it back and hit save. So that is how to add in an email alias. Other things you can do here is set up mailbox features, so different policies. So if you had sharing policies set up, they would show here. You can also here disable mobile devices. So if we click this, she would no longer be able to get into OWA for devices. So it basically block logins from mobiles. You can also disable Outlook on the web, so your OWA login. So that's when you log into outlook.microsoft365.com, and you can also enable POP and enable IMAP or disable. We can also see mail flow things. So if you wanted to set up automatic forwarding, so any emails that go to Adele would automatically get forwarded, you can tick that, hit browse, and then you can forward it. So say Adele's left or she's on leave or something, we can set in here all of Adele's emails are going to get forwarded to Alex. And you can also tick that messages are delivered in both. So if you don't have that ticked, basically what will happen is emails will get sent to Adele, but they'll automatically go to Alex and they won't be in her mailbox. So if you want them to be in her mailbox, you need to tick the deliver message to both forwarding address and mailbox. We're not going to keep that change, so I'm just going to hit cancel. You can also change the message size restrictions. So if you don't want her to be able to send big emails or receive big emails, you can change that. At the moment, it's set to about 35 megabytes and 36 for received emails. And you can also set message delivery restrictions. So that's if you only want to be able to receive emails from certain people. So say this user should only be able to receive emails from one person, you can set it there. I don't know when you'd actually ever use that. And you can also set it to automatically reject emails. So if you wanted people to not be able to communicate, you can set them to not be able to communicate. Basically, if, say, we did this and now set Alex in there, what would happen now is if Alex sent an email to Adele, it wouldn't go through. She wouldn't be able to receive it. We're not going to keep, once again, we're not going to keep them, so we're going to cancel. You can also set them to be messages of different groups. So members of different groups. So if you wanted her to be, you can see in here the different group members. You've got to set them up on the group though, not in this part, but you can still see it. And you can set mail tips if you want to. Another good part is this mailbox delegation. So if you wanted people to be able to send on behalf, so to be able to send as Adele, you can add them in this send as. So what that means is, like, this is good for like a personal assistant or something that needs to be able to send emails on behalf of their person they're assisting. You can add them in here. So once again, if I added in Alex, now Alex is allowed to send emails as Adele. He can't see any emails, but he can pretend to be Adele and send them on her behalf and send them as her. There's also the send on behalf, which is quite similar, except it comes up saying Alex has sent it on behalf of somebody. And then you can also set full access to the mailbox. What happens when you set up full access is the email account will automatically be added into the other user's Outlook. So if we were to add Alex in here, what would happen is, usually it takes a couple of hours, but at some point Alex would open Outlook. He would then have the Alex email address and also the Adele email address and be able to send and receive and view and delete and do all of that stuff all on behalf of Adele and in the Adele mailbox. So you can also do this on shared mailboxes the same. Shared mailboxes work the same as non-shared or as full mailboxes, but you can't send. So if we hit save on that, that's basically how to change all of the users' permissions. Saving completed successfully. So we can also go into the groups tab. In the groups tab, you can set up distribution groups and add users and remove users. So like the all employee group that we've got here, we can see the members in here, which we could see in Adele's before that she was a member of this. But basically if we didn't want Adele in there, you can take them out or you can add in new ones again like so. Quite simple, quite straightforward. You can also choose what the approval process of the group is. So in here, you can say that the group's closed, only the administrator or the owner of the group can add and remove members. You make it so anybody can join the group or whatever you want to do in there. And most of this other stuff we don't really use. Like I've never had a reason to use any of these things. But you can, except for delivery management, If you want people outside of your organization to use this group to be able to send into the group, you add it in there. And then you've got Microsoft 365 groups. These have slightly different settings, but you can add in more owners and members into them, and give send on behalf permissions if you wish. Another good thing that you can use is the resources. So basically what a resource is something that you can book, like with a calendar or something, but typically use them for conference rooms, cars, shared things like that. So if you wanted to add a new one, you can add in a room mailbox, left room, head office. And that's how to add in a room mailbox. What a room mailbox allows you to do is to be able to book the room, basically. So it will show up as a resource in your calendar. You can then tick it as a location when you're making a Outlook thing. So let's say I was to go to outlook.office.com and we were to go to our calendar. And let's say test meeting, Alex. And then in this area, browse for the room. So our room that we just created isn't available yet. It takes a while to propagate, but you can see the conference room. So now we can see that we're booked into the conference room for that time. And send. So that's basically what a room mailbox does, just allows you to book a room. Can be useful for like boardrooms, meeting rooms, that sort of stuff. Do the same with cars, so then people can see where the cars are. So if we go back here, we can then also add in contacts. So what a contact is basically somebody that's mapped in Exchange as a contact. So if you wanted to make rules inside of Exchange, which we'll show you a bit later, with like rules of automatic forwarding and stuff like that. If you want to automatically forward emails to an external email, you need to add them as a contact. And you can also just have a company-wide contacts database managed out of Exchange if that's what you want to do. We can also here add in shared mailboxes. So what a shared mailbox is a mailbox that can receive emails but cannot send emails. So this can be useful for like an inquiry email box. It can be loaded onto multiple people's Outlooks, and they can all read them and archive them and delete them and whatever they want to do. The only limitation with a shared mailbox is that you can't send as a shared mailbox. One good thing that is useful with the shared mailbox is that you don't have to pay a license fee for a shared mailbox. So if you wanted just somewhere to store emails for some reason, but you didn't need to send, use that. The other part in here, which we're not really going to cover, is the migration. So basically this is to migrate to Office 365 or migrate to Exchange on-prem. But you can do it from Office 365, see, like migrate to Exchange Online, migrate from Exchange Online. But you click on it, pick what you want to do, and then you basically do it. So that's pretty much all the stuff that you can cover with mailboxes. So if we go back to the dashboard, some other good stuff is in the protection area. So if we go into protection, this is where you set up your malware filters, spam filters, outbound spam and stuff like that. Something that I do recommend is setting up your outbound spam policy. So if your email gets hacked and it starts sending spam as you, like, you know, somebody gets your email and password, and hopefully you have multi-factor authentication on, but if you don't, and then they log in and start sending spam as you can go into the outbound spam section, which they've now moved to the Security and Compliance Center. But from here you can get there. Open that up. And then what you can do is actually set notifications. So yeah, what you can do with setting up the notifications is setting up the outbound spam filter policy. So the default spam filter policy we'll go into in a minute. But the outbound spam filter policy in here, we can set up notifications. So you can send a copy to a person or notify a user if somebody is flagged as sending out outbound spam. But yeah, so basically just go there, add in your person, so say admin at that, save. Now this person that is getting notified doesn't have to be in the organization. So if you're managing Office 365 on behalf of somebody else, so say you're like me and you work at a managed service provider, we manage multiple different sites, and we have this set on for everywhere. So if somebody does get flagged as sending out outbound spam, we get a notification and a copy of the suspicious email from the person that is sending it. You can also set up recipient limits and automatic forwarding on or off if you want to. So in here, if you wanted to change your default spam filter policy, you'd go into here, edit it, and then you can say what you wanted to happen. But yeah, that's basically it. So that's for incoming though. So yeah, if we go back here, in our malware filter tab, you can set up what you want to happen if there is malware. So if malware is detected in an email attachment, the message will be quarantined and be released only by an admin. Do you want to notify recipients of the messages that are quarantined? You can say yes and use the default, or you can say yes and use the custom, and then type in some customs text like and then say that. And you can also block common attachment types. So if you turn this on, basically in here, we can then say no exes, no jars, no reg. So if anybody sends in an email with a .reg, like a registry file attached to the email, it's going to automatically flag that as spam, as malware, sorry, and put it straight into quarantine. If you wanted to add in more, you can hit add, and let's say we also wanted MAR files, LNKs, add in some more, and no MSIs. Okay, so now anyone that sends in an MSI or an MSP file or any of these files in here, the email is going to be marked as malware and put straight into quarantine. So this malware 0-hour auto purge, I recommend leaving that on. Even Microsoft recommends it, but basically it protects your users by automatically taking your policy's action to quarantine messages with malware detected after delivery. So even if the email's been delivered and then it detects the malware afterwards, it will then apply that policy to it. Whereas if you have it off, it's only going to be scanning it once it comes into the mailbox. And then you can set up notifications, so if you want internal, external to be notified. And you can also set up administrator notifications. One thing to be aware of, if you set up administrator notifications, it can get quite noisy if you set it from external, undelivered messages from external senders, but it's up to you how you want to use it. And you can customize the notifications if you want to. So that's basically how you do the malware filter. You can also set up the spam filter in here. Double click on it, and then the threshold. So you can say what you want to do with spam, move into the junk folder, high confidence spam, move into the junk folder. You can also add in a header. You can pre-append the subject line with text. You can redirect, or you can delete the email, or you can quarantine it. It's up to you how you want to set that. This bulk email, this is actually your spam confidence setting. So number 1 marks most bulk emails as spam, and 9 allows the most through. So if you find you're getting too much spam, you can set it down further. So 1 would mark heaps of stuff as spam, and 9 marks the least. So however you want to do it, you can adjust it as you go to suit your needs. We can also set up block lists, so add senders to block lists, add whole domains to block lists. That's pretty straightforward. You just hit the plus, add them in. So let's say we didn't want to receive anyone from hackers.com. You go star@hackers.com. That means anybody from hackers.com. If you just wanted to block one, you could do that will just block one. So you can see there, that's blocking test@test.com, and that one there is blocking everyone at hackers.com. Actually, that's not right. You add them in down here, domain. Down there, that's how you block a whole domain. Sorry, I was wrong about that one. But anyway, that makes sense. And you can do the same for allow lists. Same as block lists, except it always allows. You can also set international spam. So now this is something that I find useful, is to just block languages. Because, like, if you're like me, there's nobody sending me emails in Russian. Because I don't read Russian, I don't email or talk in Russian, so I'm not going to get any emails in Russian. So you can tick this box and then block, let's say, Romanian, Romanesh, and Russian. So that just blocks international. You can also filter messages by country that they're originating from. So if your emails are originating from Russia, but they're still written in English, you can also do that. So Russia, sorry to pick on Russia for any of you Russians out there that are watching this, but I just picked it because I can. And then you can do this here too, advanced settings, to increase the spam score. So you can scroll through there and change them as you wish. So if there's an SPF hard fail, you can turn it on as spam, let's say. And then you hit save to save that. So we've also got our connection filter if you wanted to do the same sort of stuff except for IPs. You would open that up, connection filtering, and then always allow IPs or always block IPs. And you can also enable a safe list if you wanted to. But that's basically it for that. That's pretty straightforward. You add IP addresses, you block IP addresses. So another thing, quarantine used to be in here, but it's now in the Security and Compliance Center. So this is when you are getting in the emails and into quarantine. So I recommend reviewing the quarantine just to see what's in it. Make sure you don't have any false positives and stuff like that. But to open it, you just basically click on it and then it'll start loading up. I probably shouldn't have anything in my quarantine. This doesn't get any. But in here is where you would release emails from the quarantine. So say somebody sends through an email to your organization and people are saying, I got that email, I know it was sent, but I didn't ever receive it. This is where you would go to check to see what's in your quarantine. I'm going to skip over the Action Center and DKIM. You shouldn't need to do anything with this. Like, Microsoft by default signs their emails with DKIM signatures. DKIM, if you don't know what it is I believe it stands for domain keys. Yeah, DKIM keys. But basically it's a spam reduction policy. So your emails will get signed with keys when you send them, and then if the receiver supports DKIM, what will happen is they will check your domain keys to make sure that you're really who you say you are. So it's all about reducing spam. It's the same as doing the SPF record. Which we will go into a bit later. So that's all the stuff on protection. There's also a little bit extra around the malware and stuff protection is the advanced threats. So if you have advanced threats or Office 365 ATP, so advanced threat protection, you do need to have the license to have it. It's not in some of the plans. Some of the plans it is, some it's not, some it's an add-on. But yeah, so you've got safe attachments and safe links. So safe attachments what happens is Microsoft will receive the email, it will open the attachment in their own temporary VM and see what happens and try and scan it for malicious code. So basically, once you have ATP, you need to actually add a policy. When you first get ATP, there is no safe attachments policy enabled by default. So you need to add one in. So you just basically hit plus, then go, give it a name. And then you say what you want to do. So you can set the moment off, the attachment will not be scanned for malware. Now, I don't know why they don't just turn it on by default, but they don't. So you do need to do this when you're first creating an Office 365 tenant with ATP or when you get ATP on your Office 365 tenant. So this is where you set the settings here. You can say monitor. So if you only want it to track if malware is detected, which I don't know why you'd want to do that. You can block it. You can replace it. Or you can dynamically deliver. So deliver the message without the attachments and then reattach once the scan is complete. So that's a tricky one. What that actually means is you will receive the email, but the attachment won't be on there, even when there's no malware on there. So it can be a bit tricky. I don't recommend using that because it gets tricky for everyone. People get confused. But basically, somebody who sends an email with an attachment, you get the email while Microsoft's reviewing that attachment and testing it, making sure it's not infected with malware. You don't have the attachment, but you still have the email. I usually recommend going block or replace, whichever one works for you. You can also redirect. So now that can be a good use for a shared mailbox. Like if you wanted them to be redirected into that shared mailbox, you don't have to pay for it, and then you can review it later down the track if you want to. Down here, we also have applied the above selection if malware scanning for attachment timeout or error occurs. Pretty straightforward. Tick or untick that box however you want to do it. And then you say applied to. So we basically usually go if the recipient domain is and add in the domains. Done. You can also, if you wanted to do different policies for different users, you can do a member of a group. If you wanted to, however works for you, you just configure it to how it works for you. Like everything in this, it's all going to be different for your different needs. Then hit save. It will give you the warning here. Enable redirect should be an option when selected. Blah, blah, blah. But, you know, we're not doing this in a live one. If it was live, I would actually make a shared mailbox and put it on there. And in here, you can also turn it on for OneDrive and Teams, and also in Office clients, and allow people to click through even if the safe documents identify as malicious. You can enable that if you want to. I don't know why you would, but it's up to you. Maybe you're a developer or something and you have weird stuff getting sent around, but anyway, that's up to you. Now you need to hit save in this window to save the changes, which is down the bottom. Hit save and it'll go please wait and spin around for a second. And there we go. Now we've just created a safe attachments policy. And then we've got safe links. So it does, like Microsoft 365 does create a safe links policy by default. And you can see this is just the default one. Do not track when users click safe links. Do not let users click safe links through the enabled. Do not let users click through safe links to original URL is enabled. So we can go in here and block following URLs, tick or turn these off. Safe links is pretty cool. Basically what it does is when you click the link, it will then take you through a little thing. So yeah, that's basically the safe links stuff. It will basically redirect you through a safe links thing. It will scan the web page for you, and if the web page is malicious, it will pop up a big red message that looks like this. So basically the user will get this page that it says the website has been classified as malicious. They can then continue on if they wish to, but usually a big red message means don't go forwards. So it is quite useful for users because they click on things, you know, say they get a phishing email with a fake login page, it will come up if it knows about it. Like, you know, nothing's 100%, all this security stuff's a layered approach, but it will come up and say that the website's been classified as malicious and give them the option to go out and go, oh, is this real? So another useful thing in here is public folders. You can create a public folder mailbox by hitting the plus and going public, save. That's how easy it is to make a public folder mailbox. Basically what a public folder is a place where you can store things that's shared. So similar to a shared mailbox, except it doesn't receive any emails. It just stores things. So you can put calendars in there, tasks lists, all that sort of stuff. So when you create the public folder mailbox, you will then need to create a public folder called, we'll just call it folder. And once that's created, you can then set up the permissions on the folder permissions here. And you can set the permissions, whether they're the owner, whether they're the publishing editor. But let's say I set up my admin user as the owner. It will then create a public folder inside of that public folder mailbox. And the admin user will be able to view it and own it and change permissions and do whatever he wants to do. So you can also view what's inside the public folder and make new folders like so. To actually create task lists and mail folders and calendars and stuff inside of the public folder, you have to do that from the Outlook client. So if I open my Outlook client, it doesn't show there yet, but basically it'll show down here. It won't show yet because it can take a while. It can take up to 24 hours sometimes for it to come through, for it to show, but it'll show like this. It'll say public folder, blah, blah, blah. I'll open this up at the end of the video and probably splice it into here. But yeah, that's basically how to create a public folder and the public folder mailbox. So now that's most of the stuff that you'd need to do inside of Exchange Admin Center. Something to be aware of is if you want to use Exchange PowerShell. So, not sure if I've already put it in here. I haven't. So, if I go to PowerShell and try and connect EXOP session, I don't think it will work. So it's not a recognized commandlet. I'm pretty sure that's the right command, but basically I haven't got Exchange PowerShell installed on this. And if you wanted to, you would then need to download it and use it. So if you hit that, it will download this little application. Which, this is the tricky part, you have to be in Internet Explorer. So if we just copy that URL, so when you download it through Chrome or any of these other ones, it doesn't work. You need to be in Internet Explorer. I don't know why, but you do. I may need to log in before I can get to that page. And I've got multi-factor authentication turned on, so it's going to send me a text message. And I'm going to stay signed in. And now we will copy this URL and paste it into there. Now that we're logged in, it should work. Didn't take me straight there, but so if we go to hybrid and hit configure, it should then download the little Duvet-lacky thing, and we can install Exchange PowerShell. And there we go. So you can see now I've got connect EXOP session. So if I go it will then prompt me for username and password. And once again, it will prompt me with the text message. And I type that in wrong. $957,087. And then we should get logged in through PowerShell into our Exchange. So now this is where it becomes really good. So PowerShell is great. If you want to do anything in IT, learn some PowerShell, like anything in administration, Windows sort of stuff, Office 365, you need to learn PowerShell. So basically in here, I can go get mailbox to list my mailboxes. I can then go get mailbox dash and tab through the different things that I have. So if I go sort by, for example, well, that doesn't work, but let's go sort by name. It will then do it sort by name. So we can go get mailbox and list all of the mailboxes. We can then do stuff to them too. So if we wanted to say like get mailbox public folders, it only shows us the public folders. And then if we wanted to see all the details, we can go format, list. And now we can see all of the different settings that are on for that mailbox. So you can see there's a lot of them. So you can see here I've got all of these different things that are on. So like no litigation hold, unlimited duration. We can see the send size. So we can do something else tricky. So like say this is monitoring mail. Let's get something that I can change. There's nothing really here that I can change. But yeah, so then you can pipe it, anyway, you can pipe it into commands. So say you got get mailbox public folders and you wanted to delete your public folder, you could do that, like list all of them, delete them. You can filter down to all of the ones that, you know, start with G if you wanted to. But basically PowerShell is great. It takes a fair bit of mucking around to get your head around it and all that stuff. But I just recommend getting into it. The way to learn, I've found, is just to try and do things in it. like really, just try and do stuff with it. I've got some scripts like I can show you. So like this one, for each mailbox in get mailbox result size, set the folder permission for the calendar to have all publishing editors. So if I was to do this in here, if I do that, this will now go through every single mailbox that it finds under get mailbox result size, and now it's changing every single user's calendar to have the default access rights for the default permissions to have publishing editor. So that's the power of PowerShell, where typically to do that you would have to open up each mailbox. So to do that I would have to go open Outlook, go to my calendar, right click on it, go properties, go to permissions, and then change that default permission. So you can see here at the moment the permission is free and busy time. If I wait for this command to finish, so that's still running, but hopefully it's got to my user now. If I open Outlook and we'll go to calendar and we'll check the permission by going into here, permissions, you can now see my default level has been changed to publishing editor. So that just basically means everybody inside of my organization will be able to see my calendar and also be able to make changes to that calendar. So book meetings on my behalf, see my meetings, delete them, do whatever they want. But yeah, that's just an example of what you can do. Something else that you can do, which is quite cool. If we go to, this is something, quite cool. So this is a script that's published by GCITS, where you can export a list of login locations. So if you wanted to see what countries have been logging in, you can then do all this stuff. So you can go blah, 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 do any of this stuff. So say I won't need to do any of that because I'm already connected. We can put that into PowerShell. Let's copy all of this. Paste it in and run. And what this will do is actually retrieve all of the logs, which it didn't because I don't have logging on. If I did have audit logs turned on, which is a prerequisite in here, we can set that on like that. Turn on audit logs, but basically what it does is gets a list of all of the countries that the users have logged in from. It's not going to work obviously because I've only just turned on audit logging. So that might be something that you want to do, turn on audit logging. I actually have it set up on all of my tenants. Audit logging turned on, and we run a script similar to this, and it notifies us every day if a user has logged in from a country that is not Australia, because all of our clients are in Australia. But basically that just goes through and does it. But that's like, you can do some good stuff in PowerShell, so then that will just get the list of all the login locations. But yeah, so I can't just really stress it enough. Learn PowerShell, do as much as you can in PowerShell. It's hard, but as time goes on, it gets easier. I'll leave a link to that website if you want to see in the description. So yeah, that's how to do all of the admin center stuff. So something else that's good is the security and compliance center. which I believe is not that one, it's this one. So inside of here, this is where you go to find stuff out. So in here we can run mail flow reports and message tracing. So in here we can see we've had 17 inbound emails, 0 outbound emails inside of the mail flow insights. We can also see if there's been SMTP client authentication requests, which I'll show you how to set that up in a moment. And we can also do the message trace. So this is something that's quite useful. We can go start a trace, and we can go by senders. So if we had someone, I don't, but to recipients, let's go admin, search. And now we can see all of the emails that have been received by that user and their status. So if they've been marked as spam, or if they've had a malware detection, it will show here that that has happened. So if you're troubleshooting things and people are saying, like, I've been sent these emails, but I never got them, I didn't get them, rah, rah, you can then see here. So it'll also show any emails that have been, let's just cancel that and go search. So this will show all of them to everyone. So you can see here, I've sent the test meeting to these ones. So it shows internal, external, whatever you want to do. You can see here, more emails, and we can see this one here, failed. So yeah, that's how to do a message trace, which that's quite useful. We can also go into the threat management dashboard. I won't have much because this is a test tenant. You can do the same thing there, configure anti-phishing, configure safe links, configure safe attachments. So if we go configure anti-phishing, you can then create an anti-phishing thing. So if we go test, applied to, if the recipient domain is, and we choose our domain, and there we go. Now we've created an anti-phishing policy. So pretty straightforward. You can also, if you have the right license, do an attack simulator and run spear phishing tests, brute force password dictionary tests. So that's pretty cool. That's not in all of the licenses, but it is in some of them. But yeah, that's the main stuff for the Exchange part of things, for the threat management. You can also see if there's malware being detected, and spoof domains, if people have been trying to spoof domains to use. But yeah, so that's basically most of it. The other thing I want to show you is inside of Mailflow, there's also the connectors. So if you wanted to create an SMTP connector, you can create one in here. So what that allows you to do is basically so what an SMTP connector allows you to do is send an email unauthenticated. So this can be useful for like printers or software that automatically notifies. So you can set your IP of your on-prem stuff to be allowed to send unauthenticated through the email relay. So basically you hit plus. We then say your organization's email server to Office 365. Give it a name. And then you can do it by domain name or usually do it by IP. And then you put in your IP. So this isn't the IP of your server. It's going to be your external IP, so the IP of your internet connection. You set it there, and then you're allowed to send emails through the mail relay. Now the mail relay address will be your MX record. So let's say for this one, if I go to MX Toolbox, this is how you find out your MX record. Oh, this is an easy way to find out. You can do it by command line as well. Ah, he's not there. So you put in your domain name and then go MX lookup. And then that will be the email, will be the SMTP server that you send to. So that'll be your mail relay server. And then once it's set up, can take a little bit to set up. Like you set it up, takes about 15 minutes to become active, and then you can test it. The other thing you may need to do too is delist your IP address. So you can do that by going sender.office.com. This one. Yeah, sender.office. I don't know why that didn't work. But basically in here, you put in your email address, your IP address, and you delist it. I recommend just doing it whenever you create a new relay, because half the time, for some reason, you need to anti-spam IP delist. But yeah, that's basically, you do that, and then you're able to send through the connector. So that's basically it. That's basically all the stuff that I can run you through, or that I'm going to run you through for Office 365. Oh, actually, one more thing. Another thing you can do is set up mail flow rules. So mail flow rules automatically do stuff to emails. So say you wanted any email from Microsoft to be delivered to somewhere, you can go create a new rule, redirect Microsoft emails, apply this rule if the sender is includes Microsoft.com. We are then going to do one of the following. We can then forward redirect the email to mod administrator. So now if any of the emails received addresses include Microsoft.com, they're going to get redirected to the mod administrator user. We can then enforce it, hit save. Now you can do a bunch of different stuff with email rules. So you can see here, there's heaps of different options. We're not going to go through them all today, but you can do a lot of stuff. But basically that's where you set up email rules. So if you see things for email rules, you can do things like prepend messages, you can automatically delete messages, you can redirect messages, you can do heaps of different things. Anyway, that's where you do email rules. So anyway, guys, that's it. That's basically the introduction to Microsoft 365 Exchange administration. If you like this video, like it. It would help. And subscribe to the channel. Anyway, guys, hopefully you can succeed in your IT career. Let me know if you have any questions or any requests on videos that you want me to do. But yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.